Hello everyone. In today's class, we will be going to discuss about central forces. Myself S. Vidya Rani, working as Assistant Professor of Physics at MBS Government Degree College, Autonomous, Mehboob Nagar. Let's start the class. Before going into the session, first let us discuss about this figure here. So here mainly central forces. We will be discussing about what is central force, what are its properties, and also how the central force can be said as a conservative force, so which can be shown as a negative gradient of potential energy. And next we will be seeing what are Kepler's laws. So this figure shows the Kepler's laws of planetary motion. So I think you will find this topics relating to central forces very interesting. So we'll be moving into the class right now. First let us see what is a central force. What is a central force? If the force on a body is always towards a fixed point, it is called as a central force. So as simple as that, I have made it clearly that if the force on a body, when it is applied, it is always towards a single fixed point, then we call such forces as central forces. That means that fixed point will be the origin. So examples for these central forces can be said as uniform circular motion, force due to gravitation, simple harmonic motion, projectile motion, and uniformly accelerated motion. Others also there like electrostatic, magnetostatic forces also come under central force. A central force can also be defined as a force which is always acts on a particle or body towards or away from a fixed point, but whose magnitude depends only on the distance from the fixed point. So that point which we are taking as origin, so the force of a body is always towards or away from that fixed point only. Then we call such forces to be as central forces. So examples of central forces I have given here. So the earth moves around the sun under central force which is always directed towards the sun. So we all know that the earth is moving around the sun. So this happens because under the central force which is always directed towards the sun. That means the sun is considered as the origin. That's why the earth is moving around the sun. So and also the electrostatic force of attraction or repulsion, just now I have told you, between 2 point charges is also a central force. The force of attraction or the force of repulsion is also considered to be as a central force. And also the electric force acting on mass attached to one end of a spring is also called as a central force, such as simple harmonic motion. So all these come under examples for central force. Now we will see why is it necessary to study about central forces. Why is it necessary to study about central forces? So if studying about central forces, we will come to know about uniform circular motion, force due to gravitation, simple harmonic motion, projectile motion, uniformly accelerated motion. So by studying central forces, we will be knowing about all these 5 types of motion that we see practically. That is uniform circular motion, gravitational force of motion, simple harmonic motion, projectile motion, and also uniformly accelerated motion. So that means it is very much important to know about central forces. See, I have given an example for uniform circular motion. Let us suppose this black body is moving in a circle with a radius r from the force, that is here our force is exerted here. So it is moving in a circular motion with a radius r and the velocity vector is here given. See how it is moving with the force at its center, acting on its center. So this is an example for central force, for example of uniform circular motion. Now second example, I am showing you gravitational force. So due to the gravitational force, the moon is moving around the earth or revolving around the earth. So here the gravitational force of the earth is fixed at this point, and so the moon is revolving around it in a circular way. So that means the force is acting on the moon because of the force exerted by the gravitational force exerted by the earth. Okay, so the equation for the attraction of forces between two masses can be defined in this way. Let us suppose there are two masses m1 and m2. So and the distance between these two masses, let it be small r. Okay, so then the attraction forces of attraction or gravitational force is given as F is equal to G into m1 m2 by r square, whereas F is the attractive force between the two bodies, G is called as gravitational constant, m1 and m2 are the masses of two bodies respectively, r is the distance between those two bodies. So if you observe, force is inversely proportional to r square. That means attraction, forces of attraction is inversely proportional to square of the distance. So this is how we can define gravitation force. So another example in central forces is simple harmonic motion. If you observe in simple harmonic motion, see when it is at rest, the bob is in the center point of the thread in rest position. When it starts moving, it is moving with the center point fixed here. So it is moving with a displacement here. So the maximum amplitude here and here will be A. So this is moving towards that fixed point only continuously. So this is also an example for central force. Now I just now told that a spring attached to a loaded thing, and it is suspended from a hook. Okay, so according to this, if you observe, the spring is moving about its mean position. Before when it is not moving, it is at rest, so it is moving up and down about its mean position. So always the force is fixed towards the center of the block when it is at rest. So hence this is also an example for central force. So for this we can find out the force that is equal to minus k into x, where force is restoring force, k is the spring constant, and x is the amount of extension or say displacement. Okay, minus means it is always towards the direction of the force. Now we will see a projectile motion. So if projectile motion, if you observe, so there is a moon shaped angle. So if we see here, so when a bomb is thrown from the this projectile, so what happens? See, it is moving with an angle from the Earth's direction. So that means, so this is an angle by which it is traveling and it is reaching the ground. So that's why this is called as projectile motion. Now for uniform accelerated motion, we can show two examples, that is centripetal force and the other one is centrifugal force. Centripetal force always acts inside the bodies. Centrifugal force acts always outside, towards outside. So if you see here, centripetal force I have shown here. So let the force is acting here. So this is the center point, fixed point. So the force is acted. So the outward force that is acting is centrifugal force on the body, and the inside force that is making the body to not go away and move in its own orbit is centripetal force. So the velocity of the body is in this direction. So the axis of rotation is in this direction. This is the orbit. So centrifugal force is the force that we experience as if the body is going to be thrown out, but whereas the centripetal force acts on the body so that it always be in its orbit without throwing away. So now one more example for this central forces is like electrostatic attraction. So electrostatic attraction is nothing but, so if two like charges are there, they repel. So weak attraction forces. If they are unlike charges, then there will be strong attraction forces. So hence, so this electrostatic attraction can also be an example for central forces. So here I have shown you with one more example, like charges repel and opposites attract. So if you observe here, there is a positive charge here, one more positive charge here. So when we bring the positive charge near the positive charge, what happens? This positive charge moves away from the second positive charge. See once again, so this is brought near to it, but it is getting repelled and it is going away from this positive charge. But whereas the second example, if you see, so here what have see the negative charge is kept little bit near to the positive charge. So after sometime, if you see, this negative charge is getting attracted towards the stable positive charge. So that means like charges always repel, so and opposite charges attract. So as these are both like charges, same charge, so they get repelled. These are unlike charges, so they attract. So based on this, work can be done to store electrical potential energy. So like charges repel, plus are there. So if let us suppose the charge of this particle is Q1 and the charge of this particle is Q2, both are positively charged. Hence the forces will be of repulsion. Hence the force is, this first positive charge is moving away from the second positive charge. So the F is pulling away from here, away from the second one, and the second one is also is pulled away from the first particle. Whereas if you see here, unlike charges attract. So unlike charges means one body we have taken positive charge of Q1, the second body we have taken a charge of Q2 but with a negative charge, that is one is positive and the other one is negative. Hence there will be stronger attractive forces between both of them. So there will be forces of attraction between them. So they try to come to near to the other. So hence they are moving towards each other. So here the forces of attraction or the repulsion can be defined by Coulomb's law of attraction. So that is given by F is equal to K into Q1 Q2 by R square, where K is nothing but 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, where epsilon naught is the permittivity of free space. So F is the Coulomb's force of attraction or repulsion. Q1, Q2 are the charges of the two bodies which we are considering. R is the distance between those two charges. Hence the Coulombic forces of attraction or repulsion, F can be given as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square. If you observe here also force, attraction or repulsion forces is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Next, what we require to study central forces. We know that to know about central forces, we know that forces are a combination of mass and acceleration because F is equal to ma. So and A, that means acceleration involves differentiation of velocity, that means A is equal to dv by dt, and dv by dt means there we require velocity. So velocity is nothing but differentiation of displacement, that is velocity should be expressed in terms of ds by dt. So we need to know differentiation prior to all these things. So before learning about central forces, we have to very much know about mass and acceleration, which in turn acceleration involves differentiation of velocity, which again in turn depends on the differentiation of displacement. Hence all these things depend on the differentiation. Hence we need to know the differentiation process. Since displacement, velocity, acceleration and force are vector quantities, we need to know vectors prior to it. We know that displacement is a vector, velocity is also a vector, acceleration is also a vector and force is also a vector. So we need to know differentiation as well as vector properties before going to know about central forces. So then what we are required to know is vectors, differentiation and vector differentiation. We need to know about vectors, about differentiation and vector differentiation also. So if we know all these things, we can easily understand about the nature or about the study of central forces. So first we will see differentiation of vector functions of scalar variable time in Cartesian coordinates. So position vector r of a moving mass point may be resolved into x and y components in Cartesian coordinates as r cos theta I and r sin theta respectively. As always we know that cos means horizontal, that is x direction, sin theta means y direction, vertical. So r can be expressed as two vector sums of x and y, where x can be written as r cos theta I and y can be written as r sin theta j, where I and j are called unit vectors in x and y direction respectively. So on differentiating, what we will get is, if we differentiate this position vector, we get velocity vector. Velocity vector is equal to sum of again the differentiation of this x gives the velocity vector of x plus the differentiation of this y gives the velocity vector of y. So where Vx and Vi are respectively velocity vectors and velocity is vector differentiation of position vector. So this velocity how did we get? Because of the vector differentiation of these position vectors, we got velocity vectors. So hence displacement is also a vector. So velocity is also a vector. To find out the vector, so velocity vector, we have to find out the differentiation of both the coordinates in x and y direction. Then only we will get the two velocity vectors regarding these two coordinates, velocity vector in x direction, velocity vector in y direction. When we sum up these two vectors, we get the total velocity vector of this position vector r. Now we will see, so what are Vx and Vi? Vx and Vy are vector differentiation of position vector. So equation 2 makes an important statement that the components of velocity in Cartesian coordinates are time derivatives of the components of position vector. That means, see if you observe the earlier slide, so Vx means nothing but dx by dt. So and Vy is nothing but dy by dt. That means time derivative of this coordinate gives the velocity vector Vy. Time derivation of differentiation of this vector gives the velocity vector Vx. So that only that this statement means the same. So the components of velocity in Cartesian coordinates are time derivatives of the components of the position vectors. Hence this it may not hold in other system of coordinates. Next, a second differentiation gives a is equal to ax plus ay. So to again if we differentiate this vector, that is v. So if we derive v, sorry, if we differentiate v again dv by dt, that gives the acceleration, that is a. So again that means we have to individually take the time derivative with respect to vx and vy. Then this becomes dvx by dt, then this value becomes dv by dt, which means this is ax, that is time derivative of velocity gives rise the acceleration of this x coordinate ax, and this gives the ay. So a is equal to ax plus ay. This I have shown here. So a is written as ax plus ay. where ax and ay are dvx by dt and dv by dt respectively, or double differentiation of the position vector, that is d square x by dt square and d square y by dt square. So acceleration is vector differentiation of velocity vector. So velocity vector is the vector differentiation of position vector. Acceleration is the vector differentiation of velocity vector. Similarly, this equation 3 states that the components of acceleration in Cartesian coordinates are time derivatives of the Cartesian coordinates of the vector components. So if you observe here, so Cartesian coordinates are time derivatives of the components of the velocity vectors. Again, it may not hold in other system of coordinates. So resolution of radius vector into components, if you observe here, so this is x and y direction, so let the angle be theta. So this is the capital R, if you observe, so this is the dou phi, this is dou r, so this is position vector r plus dou r after and the displacement caused is dou s. So the displacement position vector from here to here is dou r. So if this is a point P, this is a point Q. So the body has moved from point P to Q with O as its origin. So this is how differentiation of vector in polar coordinates can be shown. So this is an extension of this. So again, if you observe here, so there is an angle theta pi by, this angle will be pi by 2 plus theta. So instead of differentiating displacement and velocity vectors, let us differentiate unit vectors r and theta. In polar coordinates, if we want to differentiate, so we don't differentiate displacement and velocity, but instead of that we differentiate unit vectors called r and theta. So taken perpendicular to each other. These r and theta are perpendicular to each other. So expressing them in Cartesian coordinates or resolving into components, we will get it as r is equal to cos theta I plus sin theta j as r value, and theta is equal to minus sin theta I plus cos theta j as our theta value. Since magnitudes of both of them unity but directions are both variables. See, if you observe, one is plus, one is minus. So that means magnitude magnitude is same but direction is different. For differentiation of the unit vectors, later on we will refer to the figure in the next slide. Later on, the formula for differentiation of unit vectors shall be fruitfully utilized for differentiating displacement and velocity vectors. In further slides, we will come to know how we will differentiate unit vectors. So the unit vectors r, theta, their increments dou r square are shown in the figure. So these are the figures relating to the polar coordinates. So differentiation of unit vectors, how can be done? So differentiation of unit vectors, as the unit vector makes an angle theta with the x-axis and the unit vector makes an angle pi by 2 plus theta with the x-axis, and both the unit vectors have obviously magnitudes of unity. So there are unit vectors theta and r continuously changing in direction and are not constant vectors, whereas I and j are constant vectors. So on differentiating the unit vectors with respect to time, we have r is equal to sin theta plus, here we have r is equal to cos theta I plus sin theta j. So we have to differentiate this with respect to time. So when we differentiate dr by dt, we will get it as minus sin theta d theta by dt into I plus cos theta into d theta by dt into j. Whereas if we differentiate theta, we will get d theta by dt as minus cos theta d theta by dt into I minus sin theta d theta by dt into j. Or else this can also be written as dr by dt is equal to, see, minus sin theta I plus cos theta j is equal to, and d theta by dt as minus cos theta I minus sin theta j. So or else d theta by d theta can be written as minus r cap d theta by dt. D theta can be written as theta cap d theta by dt. or else we can write this dr by dt as theta cap into omega, because d theta by dt gives the angular velocity omega, and d theta cap by dt can be written as minus r omega, so respectively, where omega is equal to d theta by dt, that is magnitude of angular velocity of the moving particle around the point 0 or the time rate of turning of t2. So it is important to see here dr by dt parallel to d theta by dt. So it is perpendicular to r in a direction tangent to the unit circle. So along the radius and towards the center, and thus it is perpendicular to theta cap. Thus d square r by dt square is parallel to d theta by dt, that is parallel to minus r. So thus the derivative of this is in the direction of r, that which is centripetal force. Further, let us denote the time derivative of a variable by putting a dot on the variable, that is theta dot is equal to d theta by dt, r dot is equal to dr by dt, r double dot is equal to dr by dot by dt, etc. With these notations, and observing that we know that r is equal to r into r cap and theta is equal to theta into theta cap, and velocity v is equal to dr by dt, and acceleration is equal to a is equal to dv by dt is equal to d square r by dt square. So we proceed to differentiate r. If we differentiate r, we get velocity. So v is equal to position vector dr by dt. So this can also be, this r position vector can be written as r into r cap. So dr into r cap by dt. Then if we differentiate this, so we can write it as dr by dt into r cap plus dr cap by dt into r, which means that dr by dt can be written as r dot. So r dot into r cap plus dr cap by dt can be written as r omega in r, and this can be written as theta cap. So this is how we will change the values, so that the radial and tangential components of velocity r dot and r omega respectively. So then one may try to differentiate r direct and arrive at long expressions. So no need to go for that, so that the components of velocity vr becomes r dot and v theta becomes r theta, d theta by dt r over omega respectively. So proceeding to separate the radial and tangential components of acceleration, again we have to differentiate this equation 7. So a is equal to again dv by dt, that means d square r by dt square, which in turn can be written as d by dt of this velocity r dot r cap plus r into omega into theta cap. So when we differentiate, we get this equation r double dot r cap plus r dot into dr by dt plus r omega theta cap. So we are differentiating the omega, so r omega dot theta cap plus for next time we are differentiating so r dot omega theta cap. Third time we are differentiating with respect to theta, hence we got r omega d theta by dt. So after rearranging these values, we arrive at an equation a is equal to dv by dt is equal to d square r by dt square is equal to r double dot minus r omega square into r cap plus 2 r dot omega plus r omega dot into theta cap. One term in terms of unit vector r and one term in terms of unit vector theta. That means this is, one is radial component, one is radial acceleration, this is transverse acceleration. Hence the radial and transverse components of acceleration are, this is the radial acceleration, hence r double dot minus r omega square is called as radial component of acceleration, whereas 2r omega plus r omega dot is called as transverse component of acceleration. So the expressions for velocity and accelerations are quite general and applicable in all cases of motion. So in this way we will find out, using polar coordinates we have found out the velocity components as well as acceleration components in terms of radial component and transverse component. What if the force is always towards a fixed point, that is central force? Now return to our discussion that we know that radiant and tangential components of acceleration we have taken here. So as an example, planetary motion is a motion under a central force. So we know that the motion shall take place in a fixed plane shall hold as the angular momentum is 0, as would be evident below. A little more straightforward explanation may be given as follows. if F be the force vector acting on the particle or mass m, if its components be Fr and F theta respectively, then F can be written as radial component of force Fr into r cap plus F, this is transverse component of force F theta into r cap into theta cap. So now since F is equal to ma, this whole thing can be written as m into a. A we have got here. So for central forces, what happens? F theta is equal to 0. Hence this term becomes 0. That is 2 r dot omega plus r omega dot is equal to, when we write in this, 2 dr by dt into d theta by dt plus r d square theta by dt square is equal to 0. This can also be written as d by dt of r square into d theta by dt is equal to 0. So thus r square d theta by dt is equal to some constant h, say. Because differentiation of this value becomes 0, that means this value is a constant. Let that constant be h. So say h not varying in time, that is dh by dt is equal to 0. Now we have to remember half r into dr by dt is equal to dA by dt, and 2m into dA by dt can be written as hm omega cap, where omega cap is a unit angular velocity vector as it is perpendicular both to r and dr. So in scalar terms we may write this dA by dt as half r square d theta by dt, or else half h. So on integrating this, what we will get it as a in terms of function of t2 minus a function of t1 is equal to h by 2 t2 minus t1. So in intervals t1 to t2. So by the radius vector a into t2 minus a into t1 between the time t2 minus t1 are proportional to each other. That means equal areas are swept by the radius vector in equal times, which is known as Kepler's second law for planets traveling around the stars. So we have not used the formula of universal gravitation. In fact, this was precursor of Newton's universal law of gravitation or the inverse square law. Sometime later in this topic, we would derive Newton's inverse square formula for universal gravitation from Kepler's law. But another important conclusion at this point, the Kepler's second law is true for any particle of body under central force, not only gravitation. So equal areas are swept in the equal intervals of time. So this is given by Kepler's second law. Now we will see different cases of central force. As we know, F is equal to ma, and F can be written as Fr r cap plus F theta into theta cap, which is equal to m into a, whereas a is the acceleration. So for uniform acceleration, that is r is equal to a, omega is a constant, and r double dot is equal to 0 since r is a constant. In that condition, Fr cap will be minus a omega square, F theta will be 0. So for simple harmonic motion, F theta will be 0, and also angular velocity omega will also be 0. In that condition, r double dot becomes minus k into r. Now for projectile motion, simpler will be Cartesian coordinates, that is ax is equal to 0 and ay is equal to minus g, and uniform acceleration is a particular case of projectile motion where the horizontal velocity is 0 always. So with this we have completed today about what is a central force. So what are the examples of central force? We have also seen how these central forces can be shown with the examples, and also we have seen the velocity components as well as the acceleration components in terms of radial as well as transverse using polar coordinates, and also we have seen how these acceleration components and velocity components are helpful in finding out the Kepler's second law, that is equal areas are swept in equal intervals of time. So this is a very important topic when we come to gravitation or astrophysics or astronomy. So planetary motion is very much important so that we understand it in a clear way. So learning about central forces helps us to understand the planetary motion in a better way. Hope you understood the session today. Thank you for your patience listening. Signing off for today's class.